We're underway. Video 2. Welcome to video 2 in part 3, meeting and blending with your higher self. And as I said at the end of the last video, in this one, we're going to be clearing some dense energies. And the generic dense energies, or what you could possibly call universal dense energies. I'm going to invite you as well to feel into if you can feel any personal beliefs or contracts that come up when we do this process as well. The reason we're doing this is to pave the way, so to speak, to remove any blocks or obstacles that may be in the energy field before inviting the higher self to come in, because these blocks may act as a deterrent or possibly scuff the connection with your higher self. Going back to the last video, we spoke about the nature of the world and the way in which we might perceive ourselves to be just a physical being. You know, I'm just a physical being. I don't know, my soul's out there somewhere. I don't even know why I'm here, anything along those lines. But the truth of it is that your higher self or your soul self or your spirit self has specifically chosen you to have a human experience. And the act of having a human experience is a spiritual act in itself. There's nothing that can exist really on some level that's not spiritual, including your body. Yet we can get some body beliefs and we can get some notions about the human experience that may make it feel like it's separate from God consciousness, or it's separate from universal consciousness, or it's separate from ourselves. And they're erroneous beliefs. They're not true, and they can act as an unnecessary barrier to having a really good connection with that divine aspect of this. So we do want to have a look at these and clear them out. What we're going to look at will be some generic ones. And before we begin this, just invite you to remember what you've learned so far in your training about clearing beliefs, clearing contracts. Obviously, when these beliefs and contracts come up, we're going to see them in a form where we would cancel them out. And whenever you're doing the cancelling, feel into it. Some of these may relate strongly to you, some of them less so. Some you may not respond to as strongly as others, but take them on board. Some of them might be carried with us from our ancestral experiences. They could be carried with us from some sort of instruction that we've got, or just some perceptions that we've developed through our experience, through our cultural upbringing up to now. Pay attention. Some could be quite, just see it straight away and go, wow, yeah, I really relate to that. And some others might be a bit, maybe not so much. I'm going to invite you to cancel them anyway. And also to have a feel and a look for anything extenuating to that, or an extension to that, which could be more of a personal thing that you do tap into quite strongly. You might have a belief, a personal belief surface as part of this process when you go through it. So we're moving towards meditations. Before we do that, we'll have a look at the beliefs that we're going to cancel. So remembering, when you're canceling a belief and canceling a contract, we are really feeling into any energy that goes with that, any energy that we may be carrying in our overall field. And we're intending strongly to say, I'm not going to be limited by that anymore. I'm not going to take that belief on anymore. I want to grow and evolve beyond that. And as you feel the energy of that belief and or contract releasing, it's a pretty good feeling. So take your time with it, and we won't rush. We're just going to go through a number of beliefs. I'm going to share them on the screen here for you as well. And that can be there for future reference as well. There might be some components coming up where you feel a connection with it, or you might feel that there's more to it that you want to dive into a bit more personally in your own time, and flush out some extra beliefs or extra contracts or material energy that you'd like to release and clear from your energy field. So these can block higher self connection, and obviously we don't want them to block higher self connection, because we want the best possible connection with our soul or higher self that we can possibly manage. I've got a little problem with my mouse cursor here. I'm just going to play with that for a second. Okay, good. So some of these can be taken on culturally, or they might be taken on through some sort of religious instruction like I said before, genetic material, ancestral beliefs may have been passed down to you, etc. They generally relate. They all have a kind of a similar underlying tone to them, and that would be that they tend to relate mostly to shame, actually, the shame of being human, or the shame of our mistakes, or the shame of the way in which we just feel separate in our physical day-to-day existence. That's a sort of an underlying theme between all or most of these. We'll have a look at the first one here. An underlying feeling that we may have to be punished or serve penance of some kind for badness. As if, I mean, there is that meme or that theme that's been promoted very heavily certainly through the Western culture or the Christian culture, so that type of tradition where everything comes from original sin, and that we're all sinners and we should all be ashamed of ourselves, and we've kind of got to give over our power to a different authority because we can't do it ourselves. So underlying, there might be this sense on some level that there's an intrinsic badness in us. And also that the only way to release that badness, quote unquote, is to be punished or serve some kind of penance for it. So I'm going to invite everyone to take a moment, feel into your energy field, and feel into if there's any type of belief or belief structure under there that A, relates to a sense of internal badness or sin, or just intrinsically being wrong for whatever reason, and that there needs to be penance of some kind. We have to make reparations before we can hope for any redemption, mercy, or stronger connection. Just go ahead and feel into that for a moment. Scanning if there's anything along those lines. I'd certainly encourage you to have that statement exactly as it is. And if you have any additional statements, you can place them on your piece of paper as well. So just have them on a piece of paper, A4 piece of paper in front of you. Could be in the form of a contract or a belief, or it may be both. If you do have a contract and a belief, see the same wording on both pages. Take your cancelled stamp when you're ready and just cancel them out. Remember to have a strong energetic intention to release any underlying component or aspect of that statement and the energy that goes with it, and to let go of any notion that you are bad and or have to serve penance. Go ahead and cancel that out now. Take the shards of your contract and or belief, place them in the fire, etheric fire, near you on the left or the right. And holds a strong intention that the energy, any energy to do with that, will be released from your body, aura, and hologram in the very near future when we do the final clearing in a moment. This next one is it's similar theme, but slightly different. So just an underlying feeling that something's wrong with us because we just may not feel God's love. You hear it all the time, really, in the world, don't you? People sort of trashing God for crashing planes and doing all this sort of stuff. And there's this notion that there is definitely a notion on this planet that we are separate from God in a lot of our cultural memes and so forth. And then, of course, that can be taken on a personal level, because if we do feel disconnected from Source or God, well, that's just an indication that something must be wrong with me to cause that separation, or maybe something intrinsically wrong with me in the first place. Maybe God made a mistake when he made me for whatever reason. Again, arbitrary, erroneous, not true, and something that would be extremely good to cancel, feel into, and promote the release of that energy from your body, aura, and hologram. Just take your time with that. Remember to take your cancelled stamp, cancel any contract or belief piece of paper. And you're not just cancelling the paper, you're cancelling any connection to that energy inside your body, aura, and hologram. Also feeling into the untruth of each of these statements as well. The next one has a slightly different angle to it. It may operate as a form of shame or guilt underneath, sort of somewhere in our unconscious mind. That, it could be that over time you've seen the pain and suffering in other parts of the world, the way in which many people go hungry or go without water or go without shelter, and feel a sense that there might be an underlying sense of some kind of shame in that, or even broader than that as well. Just the very fact that we need food and shelter, which is, I guess, in the case of food, that involves killing in some ways, whether it's the killing of an animal or the cutting up of a vegetable or whatever it is. There's a process of death involved in the food that we take in for nourishment, and a process of taking resources from the earth to provide shelter for ourselves. So there may be an underlying sense of shame because it takes from the planet, or you may feel that it could be taking from people who are less off in other countries. And just feel into that theme. It could be your own version of that that's worth exploring. And the primary energies that go with that, or anything around that thing, will be along the lines of guilt, feeling guilty for resources or killing, etc., and shame in some way as well. That this is an experience that happens on this planet. Contract and belief, once again. Take your red cancelled stamp whenever you're ready and cancel those out. Please feel free to rip up the shards of the contracts pages and burn them in the fire next to you at floor level. Next one's an interesting one. I have no doubt that all of us have had natural, spontaneous experiences of feeling a lot of love, of actually having overwhelming feelings of love in some ways, and that love not being appreciated or recognized or acknowledged. Maybe sometimes we've even had that love shut down for whatever reason. So just feeling into any time where you've had natural, an organic, natural, divine love flowing through you, and for whatever reason, it hasn't had a good effect on others, which could, of course, lead to underlying perceptions that my love is not good enough because it does not make others happy. It's love, right? It should make others happy. Didn't in that particular instance. Any notion that your love is not good enough at all perhaps there's any notion that love needs to be shut down for some reason. Therefore, contract or both, expressing love or my love is not good enough because it doesn't or has not made others happy. Cancel that out. Again, remember to really feel into any energy that you may relate to along that theme. consciously and willfully inviting that energy to leave your body, aura, and hologram. As a result of cancelling the contracts. Good. Turning our attention to the next one. And of course, sex, sexual feelings, sexuality. They're experiences that can bring up all kinds of not spiritual things or feelings or any amount of different material might arise from seeing sex as a not spiritual activity. Maybe the way that we see it represented in the culture sometimes. Maybe experiences we've had. Maybe there's some religious instruction around sex that we received when we were younger. Might have got in there and stuck a little bit. Just feeling into any component of that. So the desire for sex, the desire for companionship, or the fact that you have a body that expresses sexual feelings at all, and feeling on some level as if that's not in alignment with the soul or with the spiritual experience in the physical. Take your time to explore that one. Remember to have your contract and your belief ready. If you have any other ones, any personal ones that come up, feel free to add those as well. But just feeling into that and feeling into, as well, feeling into the untruth of that. Sex, sexuality, companionship, connection is a very spiritual experience, or at least can be on this planet. It's a genuine vehicle for expanded consciousness. On that note as well, the Dolphin Star Temple does have a lot more training in that regard further down the track. So just tuning into wanting sex, having sexual feelings, not spiritual, anything to do with sex and not spirit. See that come up, cancel it out. Be ready to release and let go of any of all of that energy. Take your time. Could be a bit of material in there. Okay. I believe I just had a little glitch there on the computer. Hopefully this is carrying on perfectly fine from the previous part. We have just finished clearing any contracts and beliefs around wanting sex or having sexual feelings as not spiritual. And we'll move on. Aloneness. Aloneness is something that I'm sure none of us well, most of us are not that keen to be alone all of the time. But that, there's unnecessary fears that come up with aloneness. It's quite pervasive, actually. Fears of being alone, which do lead to underlying senses of being needy and unworthy on some level. Almost like I can't do it alone. I need others around me, or I need a sense of codependence. It underpins this one a little bit. So if there's been any fears of being alone, any corresponding energies about being needy or unworthy, tune into that one and allow a belief and or contract to come up in front of you. Cancel that out with your red cancelled stamp. Rip it up and throw it in the fire. Shortly, we're going to do an invocation to clear any remaining energies from each of these, in case there's some belief material underlying there. Moving on to our next one. Even the act of being born, coming into this world, in the way in which human beings come into this world through the feminine, through the mother, causing pain. And then any underlying notion that being born caused my mother pain. I mean, none of us really, deep down, certainly not from our soul selves, ever want to cause pain in any way, shape, or form. So our very first act in the world can create some sort of underlying sense that we're bad for causing pain and that there could be some shame there around having done that. It's the last thing in the world that higher selves want to do, or souls want to do. And the human might take that on as being a shameful experience. Anything around that, feel into that for a moment. Just feel if your body is carrying any form of shame or any form of guilt around causing our mother's pain in the childbirth experience. Tuning into beliefs, contracts, perhaps it's one or the other, perhaps it's both. Just noticing those. Take your red cancelled stamp, cancel them out. Rip them up. And have a strong desire and intention to release any energy associated with that. For it to come out of your body or an hologram and to be free of any unnecessary or unwarranted guilt or shame that may have been held there. Good. Excellent. Next, we're going to talk about the concept of deserving and worthiness. Big concepts. And I'm no doubt that most of us have had our own little struggles with this one at some point. Are we good enough? Are we worthy enough? And even the concept of deserve is along the lines that we're intrinsically not good to begin with, so we've got to work very hard to deserve something to happen. And if something doesn't happen, there could be an underlying sense. Well, I mustn't deserve it. I don't have it, so therefore there's some part of me that is unworthy and undeserving of whatever it is that we're wanting or desiring in our human experience. Feel into that one. Deserve, worthiness, and we'll look at the statement as well. Just see your belief in contract paper in front of you. I should say belief or contract or both. It's paper in front of you. Feel into how much you relate to that concept, if there's any energy there. If there is, let's cancel beliefs, contracts, and clear that energy. Just feeling into it. I must not deserve what I want or I would have it. The not having it means I'm unworthy in some way. Erroneous, incorrect, and certainly good to let go of. So take your time, cancel that out. With each of these as well, as you're releasing the energy, feel into your body and just feel if there's more lightness there, more space there, and more relief there, as if your body itself is just starting to come more into present time and feel as if it's not carrying any psychic weight that it really doesn't need to anymore. This next one is a very interesting one. And I'll read out the statement as it is. Having a body in the first place is proof that I am less than and a fallen being. You know, I mustn't be that evolved or enlightened. I have to come down to Earth School in a body and go through all these lessons. Therefore, that's proof that I am just not up to scratch in the spiritual. Just not up to it. So having a body is proof that I'm less than and a fallen being. Fallen being is an interesting concept, isn't it? I mean, if we were evolved and enlightened and ascended, we wouldn't leave the fifth and sixth dimensions. We wouldn't even come here and have these experiences. So that must mean that we're novices. That may not be the case at all. And, well, certainly isn't the case, I should say. Sure, there's lessons. Sure, there's a process of evolution that takes place by having a human incarnation. But any notion that we are less than anything or fallen beings because we're in a human body, it's one we really don't need to, and I would invite you to not want to carry at all. So give yourself some time, see belief and or contract in front of you. Feel into that. Any aspect, just because I'm human, mustn't be good enough in God's eyes or the Creator's eyes. Not the case at all. Quite the opposite, in fact. Having a human experience is a profound opportunity and experience for the soul that resides in your body. And it wouldn't have it unless it absolutely wanted to. So go ahead and cancel those out. Tear up the shards, throw them away, feel into the body, and know that there is no less than at all. Just is. Our next one, it's gender related. It's interesting. There's a lot of gender related issues going on the planet at the moment, which are some of which I certainly don't understand. But gender is it can actually create an underlying consciousness both ways as well. It can for boys and for girls, men and women. There may be a sense of disappointment or of letting the parents down because of the gender that they were. Perhaps the parent was expecting a different gender, or perhaps they feel deficiencies in the gender that they're in as well. So the statement is, because I am the gender that I am a disappointment to my parents, and I can never make up for that. As I said at the beginning, there are some things we might relate to more strongly than others. Go ahead and cancel it anyway, because you never know. There could be something underneath, or there could be something quite strong for you in that as well. And perhaps just broaden that out, feel into if there's anything there that you can sense as a deficiency or a disappointment in the gender that you are, in this magnificent body that you're in. Anything at all that doesn't make you feel fully at home and comfortable in that gender and in the body that you're in at the moment. Give yourself some time. Perhaps there are contracts, perhaps there are beliefs, perhaps there's both. If you sense any other material coming up for you around that, you may actually get a belief that comes out of nowhere. Feel free to put that there and cancel that out as well. Ripping up the shards, throwing it in the fire and becoming completely and totally at home and at ease with the gender of the body that you are presently in, and anchoring into that body. A far greater sense of self-acceptance, and that everything is divinely perfect exactly as it is. The gender choice was specific and has a lot of opportunity for experience. And this last one, it comes, let me see, it's all about the fact that we inevitably make mistakes. And no matter what, like all of us, every single human being at some point or another has acted out of alignment with their spiritual integrity. Like we've done something that we just know is not right. It's not us. Whether we acted to be, I don't know, accepted by other people, or whether we acted out of negative emotion that got the better of us, or whether we were just struggling with something at a time, We've all done something where we've acted out of alignment with our spiritual integrity or acted out of alignment with our soul. And you can feel it. I think probably everybody could relate to that. You can feel, oh wow, I sort of really didn't do a good job there. I just feel like you just intrinsically know that what you did was somehow, I don't like to use the word wrong, but that would be the feeling. Yeah. And if that's the case, there might be an underlying feeling of I'm not worthy of connecting with my higher self. So like I betrayed it. Now I've got to go through all this penance once again in order to have any connection with my higher self. It's not going to like me for what I've done, or God's not going to like me for what I've done. Feeling into anything along those lines, any mistakes, any times, maybe we're out of alignment for a period of time. Perhaps we took a detour there for a while and it took us a while to realize, oh, geez, I'm really on the wrong track here. Got to get back on track. Might have been some, what we might consider as lost moments where we could have done better, etc. Moments where the fallibility of being human won the day, and we expected a lot more of ourselves. It's all in the past, and it's all, everything is nothing more than an opportunity for alignment and learning. Just remembering a mistake is only a mistake if you keep making it. Otherwise, you're already well on the way to learning a lesson from that and coming back into integrity as well. So just feel into that. If there's been mistakes, acting out of alignment or not in harmony with your higher self, we've all done it, I'm sure. Just feel into that and know that just because that's the case doesn't mean you're not worthy of connecting with your higher self, not at all. It's actually a signal to bring you back so you can start looking for a deeper connection. And the real purpose behind those events, you never know, may have been to bring you back to your higher self in the first place. So mistakes, not worthy of spiritual connection because of them, anything along those lines, seed beliefs, contracts, etc. Go ahead and cancel out any energy to do with that, ripping it up and throwing it away. Take a few nice deep breaths and bring yourself into present time. Know that everything you've just cancelled, you've done so with the intention of clearing any density out of your body, aura, and hologram, and freeing yourself from those limitations. Just to formally close out on that, like everyone listening, to hold your left hand palm facing up, just relax it on your leg, probably on your left leg or nearby would be good. And I'll get you just to repeat after me, word for word. I call forth from my body, aura, and hologram all pictures, symbols, and revolving thought forms pertaining to the erroneous beliefs and contracts that I have just cancelled, to come from all time, space, and dimensions into my left hand now. Good. Just patiently wait. Really feel it. Really pay close attention to your body and take your time. And just your intention. And an underlying knowing that it's totally okay to let go of any and all of that energy. You simply don't need it anymore. It's old material, you're upgrading, you're evolving. And underneath it as well, you're having an intention that releasing all this material makes it a lot easier for you to really welcome a good, strong connection with your higher self, that pure energy that is your divinity, that is your divine counterpart, to start to make that connection with you. So we'll give that a little time. Let's take your time. Knowing that as that energy releases, you're now in present time, totally and completely. You may even physically feel lightness where density used to be, because it simply doesn't matter anymore. I think you tend that energy to come out onto your left hand. The pile of energy might be huge. It might go up to the ceiling and beyond. It might just be quite small, compact, like it's recorded on a hard drive of a computer, something like that. Whichever it is, if it's a big one, really tall one, you can extend. Just imagine that you can extend an etheric arm, bring it in all the way up to the ceiling and beyond, if it's quite big, and bringing your palm over the top of it. And of course, if it's a smaller pile, you can just bring your hand over the top like this. And allow a ray of light to come down through the middle of your head, down your right arm, out through the chakra in the center of the palm, and just dissolve that pile. Taking your time. Just feeling into any lighter vibrations or lighter sensations that give you the sense that your physical body itself is actually a divine being as well. Very nice for it to let go of that old programming or old perceptions, so it can have a broader and more true perspective of what it really is. A vehicle for a divine being or a higher self being or a light being inside your body. Just allowing that process to finish in your own time, making sure that you've dissolved the pile. Better. And when you feel ready, just feeling into now, coming back into present time, now time, feeling lighter and brighter and clearer and happy to release any old density that simply doesn't need to be there anymore. Okay, so I included slides in that process because the themes can be broad. You may have noticed along the way that maybe you might feel that there's some more personal angles rather than just generic angles to some of the beliefs and contracts that we just finished up there. So that's there for your future reference. If you ever want to do any more clearing on any of those themes or any of those concepts, that'll be there for you to refer back to. And you can just do that in your own time and in your own way. That's the bulk of the generic clearances. So we're going to move on now. We'll complete this process, and I'm going to end this particular video. We're going to have a break, and when we come back for our next process, that particular process will be our first in inviting and meeting and blending the higher self with our body and our aura and our holograms. Wonderful process. I'm really looking forward to taking you through that. In the meantime, we'll conclude this video, and I'll see you very soon.